Welcome back, everyone. Today, here in the podcast, I have a new special guest. Her name is Elisa Hernandez. She's a Dodgers host and Snap NFL host and content creator. Welcome to my podcast, Elisa. Thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for being here. And so, just so we can start and my listeners can get to know you in case they don't, I would like you to give us a brief biography about yourself.
Oh, wow. How long is this podcast? Because that might take a long time. No, I mean, I'm born and raised here in Los Angeles, California. I've always loved sports, since I was younger. I have two older brothers that really kind of prevented me from being a girly girl. And I love to talk to people and I love to tell crazy stories and write stories. And I always thought, like, how can I make that into a job? And it was very much, sports reporting, sports journalism. It was just one of those things that just fit very well for me. And I've been blessed enough to, I went to USC. I went to community college first, then I went to USC. And then I was able to cover, USC football. I was able to cover the Lakers, the Clippers, the Kings, the Angels, the Dodgers. And I was able to meet so many people during my time at USC. And that's why it was really important for me to go there specifically. And once I graduated, continued to work hard and really connect with people and be as strategic as I could with my networking, and it's really paid off so far, and it's really kind of helped me grow in this industry to where I am now. I was a field producer for the Dodgers for 3 years before I got the opportunity to audition to be a Dodgers in-stadium host. I eventually got that job, and with Snap, I've been at NFL Network for 7 years now, and I'm only into year 2 with Snap, and I obviously am part of content and strategy and things like that, but my love for is really on camera and telling stories of players. And so kind of getting that experience and that exposure, you can never plan where you're going to go. I had no idea Snap was going to be a thing 5 years ago. And now it's my main thing. So it's like you always want to be prepared for what's next. You also want to be prepared for, what you're not expecting to happen. So that's just a little bit about me and kind of how I've been able to come up. And again, people ask me, why haven't you ever left, especially as a journalist? And I just say, I've been lucky enough to work for some great organizations. I work for the Lakers, I work for the Dodgers, I work for the NFL. And you don't say no to these places. You don't say no to the Lakers. You don't say no to the Dodgers. And I've been blessed to just really stay in LA, and that's not something that happens to everyone. Some people do have to go to the Midwest or, the South or the East Coast. And I've been lucky enough to stay here and really thrive in my career. And I'm excited to see what's next. And yeah, I think it's just one of those things that you never knew what you wanted until you got it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how did you get into journalism, but I guess this passion for sports was kind of the main thing that led you to it. I wonder, why weren't you an athlete?
Well, I in my heart, I am definitely an athlete, but I'm 5'1", 5'2" on a good day. And honestly, growing up in the Latino household, my parents really put academics first, and they really wanted me to focus on school. And I did try out for the basketball team one time. I didn't tell my parents I was trying out, and I made the team. But I didn't play. I didn't even join the team. I made it, and I was kind of like, okay, great. And then that was it. I never went back. So I really always wanted to run track. But again, being an athlete, I've learned is a full-time commitment. And I couldn't commit to my studies as intensely as I wanted to and also be an athlete. Now, that's not to say that student athletes are great athletes and students, but for me, my parents had me in summer academy and they had me in Saturday academy and they had me in after school programs. That conflicts with practice, meets, games and things like that. And, it's one of those things that I don't regret, but I kind of do sometimes. It depends on the day. So, but my parents' guidance and wanting me to focus on and putting school first. I mean, it definitely helped me. I went to USC. I got a full scholarship there, and I was able to really make some great friends along the way. And so, I mean, everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason why I cover sports with the same passion and same competitiveness. that I would have had as an athlete. So that's like this the short answer to that.
I love that. And I get it. The whole 5'1", 5'2". I'm 5 in a good day because I'm 4'11", but we all understand each other. I would never try out for basketball. The one time that I tried playing, I broke my ankle, so I was like, no. But tell me a little more about your job nowadays. I know that you are a host and you are in the digital content strategist. Can you tell me more about how you use like Spanish and English all together to attract this Latino community into American sports?
Yeah, it's easier said than done. I think for me, when I took on this job, one thing that I grew up with, I grew up around Mexican culture. I'm Central American, I'm Salvadorian, but my best friends that I grew up with were Mexicans. That's just the area that we lived in. And I was always the odd one out, right? And so, my friends would always joke with me and they're like, oh, you're really Mexican, like you just don't know. And, it was really important for me to stand strong on my culture and not just kind of go with what I fit into, right? And I say that in a way where it's like the US Latino can be anything, can be Spaniard, Chilean, Chileno, Ecuadorian, Guatemalan, Salvadorian, Puerto Rican, Costa Rican. I mean, the US Latino doesn't have a face, you know what I'm saying? And it was really important for me to showcase that, especially at the NFL. We've invested so much in international coverage and really making football global from what I've seen just on that, just as a fan. I've seen the investment as a fan. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, we have NFL Mexico as an account and that makes sense. And El Snap kind of came out and they were kind of like, we want to showcase the other Latinos. We want to showcase who else is in the league. And you dive in and we have, Sammy Reyes, who was the first player from Chile to ever play in the NFL. We have Tristan Colon from the Ravens, who's Puerto Rican. We have Julian Love, who's Cuban. We have Chris Olave, who's Cuban. We have all these players that don't necessarily have a platform to lean on. And that's kind of where we came in. And so me being first generation here and me growing up in a culture where my friends who obviously express their Mexican culture very strongly really supported me and being like, man, you better rep that you're Salvadorian and like you better rep, who you are. And they really kind of showed me like, make sure you stand out wherever you are. And so that's kind of how I continued when I got into the NFL and kind of really showcasing those stories and being like, okay, like I'm Central American. That's very different from culture in Mexico. Like the running joke is like, you want to know where people are from, ask them what a straw is. In Mexico they say popote, in Central America they say pajilla. You know what I mean? So those little details are really important. And I learned Spanish first. Spanish was my first language, and then I learned English in school. And it was one of those things that I remember fighting my mom on it. And I was like, why do you want me to learn? Like, I want to learn English. Like, yo quiero aprender inglés, no quiero hablar solamente español, and like my mom's like, no. And now I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, that she got me to learn Spanish. And my dad would only talk to me in Spanish. My grandparents only talked to me in Spanish. Like, they would not speak to me in English. And if I spoke to them in English, they would not answer me back. So, I think to answer your question and how do I use that, like to really kind of push these stories, I dive in, and I think for El Snap, one of the beautiful things is that we're storytellers and we want to show the NFL through a Latino lens in the sense of, the NFL accounts and the main accounts, they look at numbers, right? Who had the most yards, who had the biggest touchdowns. We do that too, but we also want to showcase the fact that Tristan Colon came in the third quarter, to replace the starting guard, and he's Puerto Rican and we're rooting for him, And I think that's a really big part of Latino culture is that obviously want you to be good. And obviously we anybody that makes it to the NFL, you have a big talent that no one else has to make it there. But it's almost like we don't care about numbers. You're Puerto Rican, I'm rooting for you. I'm still waiting for the first Salvadorian to enter the NFL because it doesn't matter what team he goes to. I'm going to buy their jersey. I'm going to root for them because that's my country. And I think that's the beautiful part of the NFL and El Snap is that we're we're just here to tell you all the Latino players that are in the NFL and all the different countries that they represent. We've had people message us like, what? Chris Olave is Cuban? Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, I would have never thought that. And Chris Olave is really good at football. And so for them to be like, wow, un Cubano is there and he's breaking 1,000 yards in a season and he's a rookie, I'm an instant fan, without understanding football, maybe have never even been to New Orleans, but they're just like, there's a Cuban on that team. I'm Cuban. I want to root for him. And that's kind of what I really focus on Elf Snap to do, is kind of lean into that area of kind of understanding, like, these are the stories we want to tell. And these are the people you need to meet. And this is the Latino representation that you need to see, because it's there. And if we don't show it to you, you will never think that you have a place there. And so it's important to show different faces and names and backgrounds and everything, because once you see that someone made it that far, you think and that you can too.
Yeah, I guess I'll be waiting for the first Brazilian in an NFL.
Exactly. We have NFL Brazil. We're ready.
Let's go. Because honestly, for me, I'm like, this is kind of like wrestling, but there's a ball, but it stops at every 5 seconds. And I'm like, yeah. My roommates are always trying to explain me football, and I'm like, I'll be rooting for whatever you guys are rooting today. I'll learn at some point. I've been saying that for so long. Since the first time, I don't know if you know him, Jesse Merrick. He is in Las Vegas right now. He also does sports. And I told him, like, since the first time that I interviewed him, that I would learn more about football. I guess is that I just know, like, a little bit more than what I knew, like, back then. But, I've been trying.
No, but you know what? That's the beauty about football. Like, join us anytime. Join us in playoffs, join us at Super Bowl, join us anytime. Like, there's different levels of fans. There are fans that will tell you, like, in 1948 this happened, and I've been covering football so long now, and like, there's a lot of things I don't know, but I never take it as a weakness. I never think like, oh my god. I just think like, that's cool. I didn't know that. Thank you for teaching me that. And guess what? I'm never going to forget it after that. I'm constantly learning in football. I'm constantly, learning certain plays. So something will happen, and literally we'll all be in the office and we're like, wait, what happened? And we're like, wait, what does that mean? Like, we're all looking at each other like, wait, I've never seen that happen before. What does that rule mean? Or what? You're always learning,
I love that.
And I think it's one of the things that I never want people to feel deferred. Like, oh, well, I didn't become a fan when I was 9, so I guess I can never like football. No, I have friends that one day they were like, I want to be a football fan. Literally. She was like, I want to be a football fan. Where do I start? And I was like, well, there's 32 teams. Go look at them, figure out what team you want to be. And, she looked and she was like, you know what? I really like the team, the 49ers. They're in San Francisco. I live in this place, and, it's kind of close to me, but not too much. And, I want to be their fan. That's how she goes to games. She knows players. She has jerseys. Like, she's about to have a kid. We're buying her baby clothes. That's
I
how
love that.
She didn't grow up a 49ers fan. She didn't grow up. She just decided, you know what? That looks fun. I want to be a fan.
Why not?
And from one day to the next, that decision was made, and she learned. And the beautiful thing about fandom is that as soon as she became a football fan, as soon as she became a 49ers fan, other people, oh, you're a 49ers fan? I didn't know that. Oh, you should come hang out with us. Come watch a game with us. It opens up a community that you didn't even know. And so I always tell people, like, it's never too late. Anyone can become a fan at any time. It's just, it's always welcoming. The door is always open for more fans to come and join. And again, like, you're waiting for the first Brazilian to play in the NFL. I'm waiting for the first Salvadorian to play in the NFL, because that's another way in. But there's nothing stopping you from literally right now, 2:30, on March 29th, to say, you know what, I'm going to be a Cowboys fan, established. What's going to stop you? So, just
I'm going to do my research. Okay.
Yeah, for all the listeners
I'm not going to
there.
say that I'm going to do it today, but I'm going to do my research in the 32 teams that you said that NFL has. And
exactly.
Maybe I can find something.
We have a thing called NFL Team Picker, and you just answer a bunch of questions, and then based on your answers, it suggests a team that you should like. So I'm gonna
oh my god, please send it to me
so that you can try that out, and we'll see what you get.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you. But back to our like more serious conversation. I am so happy to say that now on my podcast, I have two women talking about sports and only one guy talking about sports. And that, like, how great that is to have like more women than guys on my podcast talking about like their works with sports in the media, because I know that it's growing and it's changing, but it's still like so small, this women community that we have. And I wanted you to explore a little more about that in your experience, but also bring the fact that you're like a Latina in sports and media.
One of the things I've learned is that it's always a fight, right? And for every 4 seats that a man has on a show, there's probably one for a female host, reporter, or something. It's one of those things that I thought that was going to mean that none of the women in sports were going to like each other because there's so many limited seats. And obviously you're going to encounter people that are different, but also you want to remember that we're natural nurturers in our own way. A woman scorned is a real thing. And so that's why it's important that you truly represent who you are. And I've met such amazing mentors along the way, like Alana Rizzo, who's now at MLB Network. She really opened my eyes to professionalism in, baseball, really a male dominated sport, and holding your own in conversations and learning how to score a game. MJ Acosta Ruiz, who is the main anchor for NFL Total Access, having her on that platform, and something as simple as wearing your hair super curly, super voluminous curly, like that's not something that I grew up seeing. Everyone, which is why I always wanted straight hair when I was growing up. I hated that I had wavy hair. I was like, oh, my hair's so wavy, it's so big. I want it straight and attached to my, scalp. And now everyone's like, oh my God, your hair is so pretty, it's so big. And it's just like, it's one of those things that seeing that representation, seeing those things really kind of help the next generation, right? And that's why I always say, like, when women want to join sports, you have to do twice the work with probably half the credit. And that's not okay. We obviously want all the credit, but there's a balance, like people might tell you like, hey, you're showing off too much. Hey, you're talking about your achievement too much. Hey, like, you need to be ladylike. Like, you shouldn't be bragging so much. And it's like, you have to remember that you are in charge of you and you can't control other people, and there's a very thin line, as to represent yourself. One of my really good friends from college, we're on the phone one day and I said something and I said, oh yeah, but I'm not gonna say anything. Like, and she was like, what? She's like, no, like, no more working in silence. Like, stop working in silence. And I was like, okay. And I really took that to heart, because why did I think I should work in silence? Like, I see a lot of my colleagues, both male and female, bragging about themselves. And I used to think like, oh, like, I don't want to. Now I'm like, why haven't I been doing that? Like, like, you need to be your own biggest supporter, especially in this industry, because other women support women. This month is Women's History Month. And I think it's important that we network with each other, we connect with each other, and understand that it's also up to us to create room in certain spaces, right? I think one of my favorite compliments I ever got was me and MJ did a preview of a Rams game. And we were on the field and we just did like a quick preview, like, who's going to win? What's this? That we're just talking football. And we had this viewer comment on our account, and she was like, I never thought I would see two darker skinned Latinas talking football. For her to say that, it meant a lot, because I never saw a darker skinned Latina talking on anywhere, it was always much lighter skin tone Latinas. Like, I'm a little darker skin tone, and I'm the only one in my family. I'm the only girl in my family with this skin tone. Everyone else is light. Everyone is light except for me. So they always call me la negrita.
You're special, that's all.
Yeah, I'm a little dark one in the family. Everyone else is much lighter. And I never saw that on TV. I never saw someone that looked like me. I never understood why. Obviously, like, as I kind of go on, like, I continue to kind of push forward those boundaries. When I went to go talk at CSUN, my nails were purple, and
they were great, by the way. They were great.
Thank you. Now I have blue. Now I have blue nails. And someone asked specifically about my nails, and I said, look, it's who I am. It's not a gimmick. I don't do it because it's the typical, and no, it's who I am.
I remember you were talking about the nails and the hoops, and I was like,
yeah, the nails
yes,
and the hoops.
that let's go.
I was like, I was like, that's why this podcast is just audio, because I don't have my hoops on today. But yeah, I mean, it's who I am, and it's truly who I am. Like, I just had a meeting with the CMO of my company, a chief marketing officer of the company, and we had to talk about ourselves. And to him and to a group of 100 people, I said, guys, when you see me around the office, my nails are going to be long and they're going to be blue and I'm going to have hoops on. And you know what? It doesn't take away how professional I am. It doesn't take away how hardworking I am. It doesn't take away the fact that I do a great job.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
I was like, that is who I am. And I'm going to be unapologetically myself. I said that to the CMO of the company. I said that to a team of VPs, vice presidents, everyone, because I need them to know this is part of who I am. It's how I stay connected to my Latina roots of like expression and color. And I always wore hoops in high school. Granted, they're much smaller now. I used to have like, my dad used to make fun of me when I was younger because I would have humongous hoops and my dad would like swing on it and he's like, oh, your bird flew away. And I'm like, so we always had that running joke. So now my hoops are a little smaller, but
they're still there, and it's still you there. And it's still exactly. Like a great professional.
Exactly.
There you go.
And I always stay true to that, because as a woman in sports, you have to conform to some extent. You really can't get away with not conforming, but you can take a stand at how much you're gonna conform. And for me, it's like, look, I'll wear professional clothes. I will wear what I need to wear to look, but like my nails and my hoops are non-negotiable. And if you don't want, if a job says, well, it's too much, well, then you know what? I'm probably too much for you. And I don't want to do this, I got my job with the NFL the same way I am now. I got my job with the Lakers the same way I am now. And I got my job with the Dodgers the same way I am now. It's funny because I didn't think it was a big deal. I really didn't until people started coming up to me and was like, oh my God, I love that you wear hoops when you do Dodger games. Oh my God, I love that your nails are so long and coffin shape and they're so bright and extra. And I'm just like, what? It's like, to me, it's not a big deal, but to people, they're not used to seeing that. They're not used to seeing a super long, sharp nail, out there. And I think for women in sports, that's what's important. When you are walking into rooms, be who you are, because if not, you're going to get trapped into being someone else your entire career. That's not something that I'm willing to compromise on. And that's not something that I'm willing to give away for anyone.
Yeah.
Sure. It's like, I am who I am. I'm going to talk Spanglish. I'm going to talk Spanish. My Salvadorian accent is going to come out. I speak really fast. We had rehearsals for Dodgers yesterday, and I was speaking, and my producer was like, Elisa, slow down. You're talking too fast. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry. So it's one of those things that, as women in sports, as you kind of see positions open up, you see positions of multiple women, you have to support that. You have to support other women, because the MLB did an all-female broadcast crew, right? Like the play-by-play was a woman, the host was a woman, the reporter sideline was a woman, everyone was a woman. It was trailblazing. And the views, the game got good views. And what does that mean? It means people want to watch this. It's not something you did because, oh, let's just do it to make, no, people want to watch this. And sometimes, just like representation matters from a cultural perspective, sometimes women who are fans want to hear from a woman who's breaking down the game, and it's that representation, as simple as you're a woman and you're talking to me about sports. That's all I care about. True. And that's important too. Like that representation, when we say that, it goes beyond just your culture. It's a matter of wanting to see yourself. And if you see one, a female host, a female analyst, a female play-by-play, guess what? That little girl who loves sports, she's going to be like, I want to be like Jessica Mendoza, who's a play-by-play for the MLB. I want to be like her. She made it. Now I know that there is room for me to be in a play-by-play room. There's room for me to be a sideline reporter. There's room for me to be an analyst, because you just see another woman breaking those barriers. And so that's kind of what I try to be. As much as I can. You don't know that you're doing it. That's the best, most rewarding part, is that while you're just doing what you want to do and what you think is important, I think what the payoff is other people noticing and other women being like, wow, you're amazing, or wow, like I didn't know you could do this, or wow, like Elisa, I saw you were at Super Bowl, like I want to go to Super Bowl. It's like it's very humbling sometimes when people message me, because I've been in the industry for so long. I get a little jaded. Sometimes I have to remind myself, like, people would kill to be at the Super Bowl. People
Yeah.
would kill to touch the field before the Super Bowl game. Some people will never get that opportunity in their entire life. And I have to really think about that sometimes and be like, okay, let me enjoy this.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I really love
Let
this answer.
me enjoy it.
I loved your answer, like, for the whole thing. It was so great and so insightful. Hey listeners, I have a great news for you. I'm here to incentivize you to create your own podcast just like me. I couldn't think of a better partner than Buzzsprout, and I recommend them for you as a beginner in podcasting. Buzzsprout can help you with publishing your own podcast in every major platform such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. They also automatically publish on your personalized website, and they give you all the statistics in detail that you want. To start your own podcast and to win a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the instructions on the link in my show notes. If I can do it, you can do it too. Good luck on creating your very own podcast. And I'm so excited to talk about this. Whenever I get like into this women in the industry, I usually ask like some of the women like how do they feel, if it's like a little more masculine part of the media that is still is, and like I get like those answers and I get so excited to like go into it. And you were talking about people bragging about their achievements and now, but you were a 2 times Emmy winner. And you know what? I'm gonna give you the stage right now to brag a little about this, about the work that you did, like how did you felt your family, because the Latinos, they're very family people. So like, how was all of this process? Please brag about it.
Yeah, well, the first one that I won, I didn't know that I won. We got an email from our director, and they were like, "Hey, like, make sure you guys can pick up your Emmys." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "You won the Emmy for the show on Sports in LA," and da da da. And I'm like, "Me? Like Elisa Hernandez?" And they're like, "Well, that's what's on the trophy." And I'm like, "There's a trophy?" Like, it was just, it's one of those things that it was kind of bittersweet, because this is when I really truly learned to appreciate everybody that works on the crew. Stage managers, teleprompters, lighting, audio, camera, all those guys, they play a huge part in making any kind of host reporter successful. And when I won an Emmy, my first Emmy, it was very much like, wow, so I was important. You know what I mean? Like, I go to work, I do what I had to do, I was prompter, teleprompter, stage managing, things like that. I was part of the team that won, and so we all got Emmys, and it was one of those things where like I took me a moment to kind of be like, okay, so I'm doing good. I'm doing good, and I didn't. That job was one of those things that I want to be on camera, but I went into production because I wanted to do that, and when I got that, it just kind of let me know, like, okay, like you're on the right path, like there's a reason why you're here. And it's true, because had I not gotten that job, I wouldn't have met everyone that I met. And then, 5 years later, they were looking for a field producer. I got recommended. And then the people that interviewed me were like, "Didn't you used to work here?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Weren't you like, you worked on the Sportsnet LA show?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I was like, "I won an Emmy with them." They're, "Oh yeah, okay." I would have never had that connection, and so when I got hired and I became field producer, that was an interesting time. In 2019, we had a great season. I worked with Alana Rizzo, who's a 7-time winning Emmy Award winner. So I have 5 more to catch up to her. And I remember when I won that one, we had done a great show, and I think that Emmy was the one that I really felt that I earned, in the sense of like, I produced the show. I'm a big part And when I say produce a show, I mean from a field producing standpoint, right? So we have our producers, our amazing producers at Sports in LA that produce the actual like rundown. But I was the conduit at the stadium. So it'd be like, hey, Lisa, like, who do we got? And I would go and I talk to PR and, hey, we want this guy. We want to talk about this and this. Okay, great. Hey, so, and I would go and I'd get the player and I'd take him to the set and I'd sit him down. And I'm like, I felt my work. And so when I got that Emmy, it was kind of like, damn right, I deserve that. You know what I mean? And so that was one that I was really proud to win. And, I was just really excited for that opportunity and to be recognized in that way. And regional Emmys are a little different, so I didn't go to the award show or anything like that. But when I got the box and they were like, hey, like, come pick up your Emmy, and I looked at it and it's like gold and shiny and has my name on it, and I showed it to my parents, and it's so funny. Like every time around Christmas, my parents bring it out like it's like decoration. I think because they look like angels, and they're just like, oh yeah, family's coming over, bring the Emmys out, and it's just like, oh god. So,
is the thing on the top of the fireplace.
Exactly. And I am really proud of it, and it's one of those things that I'm like, okay, like, well, what's next, right? I don't want to be that person that's like, yeah, I won an Emmy 4 years ago. Like, no, like, I'm like, what's the next award I'm gonna get? And so, but again, like my humble upbringing and my hard work upbringing always tells me, like, you know what, just do your work and everything will come after. Like I had no idea I was competing for an Emmy when I was doing my work. I just did the best work that I could do. I had no idea that show was going to be submitted for Emmy consideration. I just did the best job that I could, and I think that's what people have to really focus on. Just do your work, be the best that you can be. That's one thing my dad would really tell me. He'd be like, I don't care what you do, just be the best at it.
Apparently
I don't care
you
what
are
job you take.
twice.
Be the best at that job. I don't care what job it is, be the best. Make it so that no one can do that job better than you. And I took that to heart when I was a kid, and even now, like I always try to be humble, like thank everyone who are always helping me, especially people that go out of their way to help me. Especially at the NFL being so big, I know a lot of people there, but it's basically because I worked my way up from the bottom to with the position I am now. So I think the 2 Emmys are always something that I always forget to mention sometimes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I have 2 Emmys. Oh, silly me.
Yeah, like and like it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm like, no, I really forgot to tell you guys that, like, you're right, I did win 2 Emmys, and I always try to just say, like, you always want to take a moment to appreciate those times. My mom was super excited when I won my first one. She was super excited when I won my second one, and I can't wait to win a third one. So, but I won and honestly, I think to close this one out, what I love about my Emmys is that they kind of tell a story. So my first Emmy I won when I was in studio ops, right?
Yeah.
The second Emmy I won is when I was a producer. And I hope that my next Emmy is when I'm a reporter.
I love that.
Or host.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
we're
so
cheering for that. Everybody here.
Yeah, they will truly represent my growth, and I think that's my favorite part of my Emmys.
I mean, in this bragging part here, I kind of want to brag a little bit too. It's not the same. It's not quite the same as an Emmy, but last year I went as a volunteer to organize the Golden Mics. This year I got one of their scholarship awards. And I was like, It's like such a big deal. I was just getting the scholarship, not the actual Golden Mics. But everybody was like, oh my gosh, that is so nice. Congratulations and making all these connections. And there was this girl that she got the same scholarship that I got, like, for the first time last year. And this time she went back as a reporter in the industry already. And she was like, you know what? You came here as a volunteer, as now, like, scholarship recipient. Next time you're coming here, it's going to be because you're in the industry. And I was like, yes, that is my next goal. Get my Golden Mics when I'm already working. Yeah. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, as you said, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Well, congratulations to you too.
No, but it's true. And I think telling those stories is what's important. I mean, you're going to remember those moments. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're going to remember what it took to get here and what it took to get there. And I think that's one of the things that I talked about to, some of the people at CSUN, where I just said, like, look, like, it's going to feel like you're going in the wrong direction until it doesn't.
I
You
mean,
just have to
I
trust, you
went
just have to trust yourself as much as you can.
I went 7K miles away from home just to follow my dream. So like getting that award, I was like, yes, everything is paying off right now, and I'm just gonna
Mhm.
keep like grinding to get like my ultimate goal here in the US. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's all it is
Look,
about.
being 5'1" and 5'2" is not a bad thing, or even 5 feet. You know why? You can be in the front row, right under the camera. You're not in anybody's way, and you can just kind of maneuver. That's
Yeah,
what I did.
there we go. That's the
Yeah, the
perks
camera
of
would be
being.
like right here over my head, and I'm like, "Am I in your shot?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Great."
You're for sure
There's my
not.
mic.
Don't worry.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I was also like when I was doing my research about you to ask the questions, I saw that literally every job or internship that you got was in
Mhm.
sports. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that is amazing. Because like you said in the very beginning of this episode, like you are very blessed to be like just in LA and very blessed to get like just stuff in sports, which is like people have to go, oh, you're gonna do like news or hard news just to get into the field or whatever, but like
Yeah.
literally everything. ABC 7 News, co-host for the Lakers, Dodgers, NFL, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing.
So all my internships have been in sports, but again, it's something I've never actually thought about or really realized. It's interesting that you kind of point that out because I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. I did do news when I was in school, like so my classes I had to do. I had to do news, and it was okay, and like I was good at it, but it didn't give me the happiness that I was looking for. And with sports, again, like it's my competitiveness, right? I love to be competitive. I love to kind of challenge myself. And I just knew like I want to do that. And I've always been that way. Like even when I went to community college, like I told my mom, like I'm not going to get stuck here, I promise. And when I transferred to USC, when people transfer, they apply to multiple schools. I only applied to USC and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in. Like I just knew it. Like, is that smart? Probably not. I probably should have like applied, but like I was all in. And I got in and I didn't realize I didn't apply to anything else until someone told me like, wait, what if you didn't get to USC though? What were you going to do? And I'm like, what?
Good question.
Like it never entered my mind that it was a possibility that I wouldn't get into USC. Like I was like, no, I'm going to community college to go to USC and that's it. Like there's no in between. And so I kind of took that same approach when I was interning. I was like, yeah, I want to intern for the best places. ABC 7, KCAL, CBS, they're at everything. They're at every Laker game, Clippers game, Angels game, Kings game. I want to do that, so let me go. And it's such a nice thing because even now, the camera guys that I used to see when I would intern, they're still the camera guys to this day. And it's like, it's almost 10 years later and they see me and they're just like, Elisa, like, oh my God, like you're so grown up and we're so proud of you. And they like hug me. And it's like one of those things that I'm just like, wow, like they really got to see me grow up because I didn't leave, and
Yeah.
again, like working in sports, like networking was a really big part of that, and networking
Yeah.
was a really big part of how I was able to maneuver and get my different jobs. Like the intern coordinator that I had at KCAL 9, he ended up leaving to become the intern coordinator and the hiring manager, I think, for studio ops at Spectrum Sportsnet. And I was his intern. And so he had called me and was like, hey, like, I don't know what you're doing after college, but we have some openings if you want to. And I was like, sure. And that's how I got that job. It's because I met someone and I knew someone. And again, you never know who's watching. So you just have to
Yeah.
do a good job. Like you never know who's looking at you. You never know who's watching you. Whether it's social media, in person, at the stadium, thousands of people go to Dodger games.
Yeah.
Thousands of people. Those levels are filled with Dodger fans, VPs, executives, hiring man, everything. You never know who's watching. And so every time I go on camera for the Dodgers, like I'm representing a team, I'm representing a brand, and I'm representing myself. And I always want to make sure that I do a good job and I'm joyful and creative and loud and, being who I am because people are going to see that and people are going to hear the name. And
Yeah.
there's one thing I learned about Dodger games. They really pay attention to the pregame show. And I didn't know that until I was people like really watching. And I'm like, oh, wow, you guys really watch this. Okay, so I have to do an even better job. And so, again, I've been very lucky, very blessed to work in sports. And I think it's one of those things that I just have to remember to appreciate, that
Yeah.
my journey has kind of brought me here.
For sure. And as much as I'm loving having this conversation with you, we have to go towards the end of the episode. And I know. Can you give students that want to pursue sports an advice besides being yourself? There's, I think, like the whole episode you gave like a bunch of good advices, but which one is like another one that it came to your mind like right now for students?
You know, obviously, I grew up in LA, so I was a big Lakers fan. Kobe Bryant is my favorite player ever. The Mamba mentality is something that I've really taken into heart. And also, he said a quote one time, and he's like, "If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will." And that comes part to what we talked about earlier about bragging and not working in silence. The thing with Kobe is like he worked in silence, but you knew how hard he worked. That wasn't silent. That was as loud as it could be. You know, and players, and again, you never know who's watching. Players to this day, even though, 3 years after he passed, is very much like, oh, when I was a rookie, I went to the gym at 4 a.m. and Kobe had already been there for an hour. Whether Kobe knew that or not, it's like you never know who's going to take inspiration from you.
True.
And that's why you have to believe in yourself more than anyone.
Yeah.
And you always have to take the time to pay it forward and never forget who helped you, who was nice to you. Be nice to everyone. That's also my Latino culture, that just, that's just how we grew up. Respecting our elders, respecting, proper authority, but also knowing when to push back on that authority. And I think that's important for young journalists out there. This job is a lot of fun. It's also a lot of sacrifice. You sacrifice time with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your significant other. You have to put in that time, because it's not just going to come. It's not just going to be like, even though it seems that way. Some people see reporters get jobs and they're like, oh, she just got it because this. She just got it because that. Little do they know, she's been doing what you're doing for 10 years. She's been doing what I'm doing for 6 years, 7 years, whatever, 10 years. Every overnight sensation took 10 years in the making. And people don't think that. They just think, oh, they just got her because she's super pretty, or they just got her because she's this. And it's like, no, if you look at where we've all come from, we've all had to work and do many jobs, work many things, be a producer, be a field producer, a runner, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, don't let that discourage you. And you have to believe in yourself, or no one else will. And don't compare yourself to other people. It'll drive you crazy. And you just have to know that what's for you is for you. And something's going to come along and you're not even going to realize it, but you have to be ready for it. Like I love football, basketball, and baseball. And right now, one of the favorite jobs that I did was rallycross, where it was like electric car racing. Never did I think would I ever be a reporter for electric car racing. And I was, and it was so much fun. And I learned so much about it. And I was like running around, and I was like in dirt and gravel and like all this stuff. And I would have never thought that I would cover that sport, And so you have to just believe in yourself and be open to things and understand, like, you do need to be your biggest fan.
And now, just to finish, really, I love all of your words. They were very insightful again. And there is anything else that you think that you should tell me or tell our listeners here that are spending the night, day, morning? I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but
well, first thing is thanks for listening. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about things and going down memory lane. I think to close it out, I really had a good one. I don't know if it slipped my mind right now, but really just taking a moment and know that there's nothing wrong with being the first. And what I mean by that is, it's okay that there hasn't been a darker skin tone, half Korean, half Salvadorian reporter. Be the first. It's okay that there hasn't been a, first generation Brazilian 5 feet on a good day 4'11" correspondent for MLB Network. Be the first. It's okay. It's scary and it's hard, but it's okay. If you don't see a representation, be the representation. If you don't see yourself, be that person then. Be the person to to go do that. And again, I know it's scary and I know it's easier said than done. Trust me. Don't wait for someone else to be the first.
I love that. And
You know?
thank you. Thank you for all these words. They are so great, honestly. Thank you so much, Elisa, for coming to my podcast. And thank you, all the listeners who are listening to us. And, don't forget to go to the show notes, check the website, go to our social medias, our Facebook, Journalist Talk, and Instagram, Bea Barros News. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye!